It says I'm live. Hello. Um, you guys, this is so weird. This is new tech. Gen X meets new tech. You know I'm not good at this. Let me know if you can hear me because I'm trying this situation mic thing. Also, hi, and thank you for being here. I see that there's a few of you guys like checking this out. Oh, there's 46 of you. Hello, 46 people. Oh my gosh, we have so many things. Oh, great. Thank you, Bruna. She says we can hear you perfectly. Thank you so much. Um, okay, before I get started, I hope I can scroll back because y'all are writing super fast and like this is this is gonna take me a second. Before I get started, Paul and I are looking for fan fiction submissions for our fanfic Fridays. So if you guys have anything that you think would be interesting for us to read, bear in mind that if you make it too salacious, our hearts will stop and we will drop dead because we are slightly squeamish of some of the fan fiction that's out there. Cause some of the fan fiction is not for the faint of heart and impossible to read out loud. But if you have something that you think would be good for us, um, then you can send it to all the places or you can drop it in the chat here and our brilliant producer Ben um will get it to us. Speaking of shout outs, we have a new intern. Her name is Alyssa. Alyssa, hi. I think I'm saying that right. It's Alysah. I think that's correct. And also, as always, producer Ben. He's the greatest. You guys know this. Um, also, wanted to give a quick shout out to Miss Bruna again, who has been making amazing edits for us, which is super rad. And we don't have the capabilities. This is why live is hard, you guys. Capabilities to do. Okay, so let me see if I can scroll up. Oh no, I totally can't. Okay, cool. So we're just gonna answer these as best I can, and maybe somebody can tell me how to scroll up. Um, let's see. Stephanie says, "Yay, love fan fiction Fridays." Um, oh yeah, Bruna, I have a like effectively a goddaughter whose name is Bruna. Um, okay, let's see. Um, Amore asks, "Do you ever get overwhelmed by how many people care about you? Like, does it ever feel about too much?" Does it ever feel like too much? No. The idea of people caring, is not something that ever feels too much, especially because you guys are nice. It's not like, you know, the characters I play, maybe because they're moms usually, tend to attract, like, loving, kind fans who build community with one another and care about social justice and are lovely like you guys. Um, it might feel different if people were like, "I need a lock of your hair and I wanna smell your shoes," but I don't tend to have those fans. I know some people do, and um, that would be very different. I like you guys. I feel like I won. I feel like I won the fan lottery. Um, okay, if there was a movie made about you and Paul, asks Kayla, what would the title be? Oh, that's good. If you guys wanna throw some answers into this chat, let me know what you think. A movie made about me and Paul. Um, I don't know. I don't know. Paul had a story that he cut, I think, that he told about, a director who saw him running and was like, "You have to slow down because you're running too fast, the camera can't keep up with you." And Paul was like, "Fastest Jew in Hollywood." And I don't know what the movie Fastest Jew in Hollywood would be, but I think it's a really funny title, and I'm interested in what Paul would do with that, and I would play any supporting character as long as he could just yeah, it's like Marathon Man, but with Paul. Um, right. Discord has renamed itself the SWC Hype Squad. That's fantastic. That's amazing. Okay. Aki Sugiwara says, "Hello from Australia. Woke up earlier than usual for this. We're also discovering that I can't read today. I don't know. There's like a brain fog situation happening." Camilla says, "If you could choose a few actors from Prison Break cast to create a brand new series or movie, who would you pick and what would it be about?" Okay, we have to start with Amaury. because he's just such a bright light. Um, he's the first one that came to mind, but actually, I think it'd be really interesting to grab all the women, to grab Camille Gawadi, to grab, Cynthia K. McWilliams, to grab, Holly Valance, who played Nika, um, Jessalyn Gilsig, to, like, take all of the brilliant actresses who maybe had slightly less to do than they could have, and bring us all together. Maybe it's like an Ocean's 8 kinda situation, um, where where it's a heist kind of a thing. Um, we're sort of all over. When we talked to Cynthia, she was shooting in South Africa, uh, and Jessalyn worked a bunch in Ireland on Vikings, so maybe we make it a sort of, like, international female, um, ring of thieves. Or maybe we're just a vigilante justice squad, righting the wrongs of women everywhere. I kinda like that. Okay, but I'm reading these in no particular order, it's just what I can see. Bridget Martinez said, "When you learned you were cast in Prison Break, did you feel nervous before stepping into that role? Were there any fears or uncertainties about what that experience would be like, and how did you push through?" Yeah, I mean, I was so new. So Prison Break was '05. I finished grad school in April of 2002. So it was the 3rd pilot I'd ever shot. We did the Tarzan pilot that went to series briefly before being canceled, and then I did a pilot called The Secret Service, which did not get picked up, and then it was straight into Prison Break. So yeah, super nervous. I still wasn't sure that my theater training would translate on camera. There's always that, like there's all for me, there's always a bit of imposter syndrome. I mean, I'm going to shoot a movie. What's today? Today's July 3rd. I leave to go shoot the film the 10th, and I shoot sometime between the 10th and the 16th. Um, and I'm still nervous. You know what I mean? I'm like, I've been almost exclusively directing for the last couple of years. What if I've forgotten how to do my job? What if this is the show where they figure out that I've been faking it all along? I think that's just a part of it. And I remembered asking, I think it was Mitch Pileggi, when I ran into him at an audition. We obviously weren't reading for the same role, but Mitch, if you guys don't know him, he played Skinner in the original X-Files, phenomenal actor. We were in Tarzan together, and he was, ahead of me by a couple of decades, and I asked him at the audition, I was like, "You're not nervous, are you?" And he goes, "Oh my god, I'm terrified." And I was like, You're like this big deal, you've done all this wonderful work, you're super established." And he said, "I think the day you're not nervous is the day you quit." Um, so, yeah, still super nervous. But that's okay. That's how you know your heart is really beating and you're really alive. Um, okay. Camilo says, "You're gonna be great for sure." Thank you. I appreciate it. I don't believe you, but I thank you. Laura Morgan, what did you have for lunch today? I made you guys, I'm super proud of this. I made hummus. I realized that buying hummus takes longer than making hummus. I mean, I used a can of garbanzo beans. I didn't like make them from dry. But I had homemade hummus, with a recipe I actually got from this wonderful children's book series called The Littlest Dinosaur. It's so lovely. It's this, like, beautifully inclusive, uh, self-published set of children's books about a little dinosaur. Um, and Ty is a Tyrannosaurus, and he's a vegan, and he eats hummus. And my friend Bryce wrote the book, and he gave me Ty's hummus recipe, which includes cumin and paprika and a whole bunch of tahini and a bunch of other things. So that's what I had for lunch. Also, go read The Littlest Dinosaur. It's wonderful. It'll make you happy. Um, Kayla Topless says, "We all wanna know about our letters to Sarah." Oh, I can't. I'm gonna start crying. Um, I really might start crying. If I start crying, I'm gonna stop talking, not crying. It meant the world. It meant the world. I mean, I say this a lot, and I know you guys have heard it a lot, but we put stuff out there, and you never know who's going to receive it. Um, and there are often things I put out there that I think maybe this is too subtle, maybe this is too nuanced, maybe it's so profoundly female forward that it's gonna be alienating to other people, and the smallest nuance you guys pick up. And that's, oh, it's fucking beautiful. Okay. Um, Summer asked, "Did you find it hard to film the bathtub scene with Paul?" Super yes. Check out those episodes, because we did a couple episodes where we talk about that stuff in detail. And I don't wanna go back over it here because most of these folks have probably heard it, but it's, yeah, it was super hard, but it was great um, because Paul was lovely to work with, and because they were exciting scenes, right? Like, those were scripts that I read and was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna sink my teeth all the way into this." Um, Zoe Temelion, I apologize for what I just did to your name, Zoe. I admire you for a lot of things. Thank you. You seem so well spoken. Thank you. Has speaking publicly been a natural talent for you, or did you practice for it? Public speaking is wild. So obviously, I'm a trained actor. I was raised by professors, so speaking being articulate was a family value. Um, Somebody said to me the other day, "All I care about is raising my kids to be kind," and I was like, "Oh, that's really interesting." I think my parents raised me to be, articulate, creative, and an original thinker. Um, I try to also be kind, but that was definitely not, like I don't think that was number 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, on our list of family values. Um Acting is not public speaking, obviously, because it's somebody else's character, somebody else's words. I find public speaking often terrifying. I gave a talk uh, at the Kennedy Theater at the University of Hawaii while I was doing Walking Dead, and I, like, practiced it every day for 3 weeks, and I still got up there and was shaking like a leaf. The scariest public speaking I was ever asked to do. This one blew my I still can't believe they asked me to do this. I was asked to speak at the State Department at the United States on World Refugee Day, which is June 21st, the year I did The Guardsman at the Kennedy Center, which was 2013, I wanna say. I just left Walking Dead. And I was asked to address, the State Department, including then Secretary of State John Kerry and the head of the UNHCR, High Commission for Refugees, about my time in Northern Iraq, and Jordan with refugees. I was given, like, 5 minutes, like, this was not a long thing. They had lots of other people do the big talks. But I was terrified because those were real, policymakers and people who do this for a living, and I sort of float in and out of this. And funny story, my husband was coming up to visit me because I'd gotten the invitation after I'd packed and gotten to DC. And I said, "Grab the most conservative things in my closet that I could wear." And I walked in, and compared to everyone else, I looked like a sex worker. Like, it was the longest wool gray skirt I owned at the time, and it was, like, 4 inches higher than every other hemline. I didn't have a blazer, so I just had, like, a white silk button-down top that I'd been given at some press event, and I was like, "This is so fancy," and I walked in, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm supposed to be in pearls and a blazer." It was embarrassing, and everybody was kind enough not to remark on it. Okay, I was wondering oop, gone. Um, Ingrid, do you have your season 5 scripts? I do, and you had another question about that, but it's all moving too quickly. Guys, is there a way to, like, go back? Wait, I can scroll up. Ha ha! Sorry, guys, I'm figuring this out. Okay, back to Bruta's question. I was wondering how you felt playing a doctor. Was it hard to learn the vocabulary/procedures for the specific scenes? Do you ever have a doctor on set to teach you? I wish we'd had a doctor on set. When we did, The Good Doctor, there was a whole I was directing that, not acting on it. There was a whole, like, department and rehearsals for the props, and a nurse that was there on set all the time, but I didn't do much doctoring. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was mostly an excuse to get into the infirmary and chat with Michael. Um, and yeah, I found the language was difficult. There's one that to this day, I can't remember, Paul and I were talking about it when I rewatched it. There's one word that to this day I don't know if I got right because it was one of those things where the writers were like, "Do we talk to an expert? It's this." And then there was someone on set the day that was like, "We talked to an expert, it's this." And they were all conflicting. And if it comes to me, I'll let you know. To this day, I don't think I got it right. I'm sure there are many, many, many physicians who watched that and just went, "It's TV. What are you gonna do?" Um, okay. Katharina asks, "How long do you think it took for Michael and Sarah to be together as a couple after season 5 ended?" I mean, like a second and a half? I feel like there have been so many obstacles between the 2 of them, but I imagine that they weren't ever like, "Will you be my boyfriend? Will you be my girlfriend?" Like, I can't even imagine them really married. I just think it's almost like that line at the end of Four Weddings and a Funeral where Hugh Grant says to Andie MacDowell, "Would you please not marry me?" And do you think I'm paraphrasing, do you think not being married to me might be something you could do for the rest of your life? Like, I think they would have a kind of, like, you know, I don't wanna get in your way, and I don't wanna slow you down, and I know that you're brilliant and independent, and I don't wanna be a I don't want you to feel obligated because we went through all these things together. I feel like one of them would just be constantly like, I don't wanna make assumptions, blah, blah, and the other one would be like, "Are you done yet? Because 'Cause I've kind of loved you from the beginning, and, you said that thing about Baja, so let's go to Baja and grab some beer." Um, and then that would, like, be it, and they'd just be together for the rest of their lives without anybody ever making a big thing of it, but it does feel like one day she'd just show up and just, like, out of nowhere, hand him an envelope, and it would have her, like, legal name change to Schofield or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're sweet and charming and understated and super broken and full of trauma like that, which is why I love them. Let's see, how do you carry Amore asks, "How do you carry the weight of telling stories that come from real pain, like displacement or violence?" Ooh, um, I don't have a great answer for that. Like, even the Afghan women that I was talking to in Germany when I was there a couple of weeks ago, I don't know. I mean, like, some of the stories I can't tell without crying, but then that makes me think, "Okay, fine, it's just tears?" Um, should I be able to tell a story like that without it affecting me and going all the way in? But then the challenge is that if you consume too much of that, um, does it consume you and then prevent you from doing the kind of work that needs to be done? I mean, one of the things I talk to the IRC folks, the International Rescue Committee guys, a lot about is, what are we doing to take care of our staff? Like, especially the people who are there on site, um, in the midst of it all, whether it's in Uganda or in the OPT, or Afghanistan or wherever in the world, are we doing enough to take care of the staff? Because it's very easy, I think, in the middle of suffering to say, "No, no, no, I'm gonna come last because these needs are so immediate." And yet, if you don't put your mask on before helping others, as they tell us whenever we board a plane, then you're no good to anybody. Um, yeah, and so I also think sharing those stories helps because everywhere I go, people tell me a story and then they say, "Tell people, don't forget us." So I'll tell you one of the stories that one of these Afghan women, shared with me. We sat down over dinner and, uh, it was a big dinner. One of the members of the German Afghan refugee population had hosted us at their house, and I sat down with this woman. She introduced me to her daughter, and her daughter was older teenager, and I was like, "There's no way this woman's my age." I was like, she's like, skincare doesn't exist that's good." Like, she looked amazing, she was gorgeous, so lovely, um, and very poised, and then she tells me the story of, she this is a story to explain to me why it's important to draw attention to what's happening in Afghanistan. Um, she was forced to marry a man. Um, I'd have to go back and check. I think she was 13, she might have been 12. Um, and he was an adult, and she did not wanna marry him, but she was forced to marry him because she was pregnant, and there was a cultural shame around that. And if that weren't bad enough, she was pregnant because he had raped her. So she sorry guys, trigger warning. So here was a woman who and then she had escaped Afghanistan with her daughter. So I'm looking at her realizing this is her daughter, and she's saying, "I would change nothing because I have my girl, but it's this bad, and this is why the world needs to not look away." And she's telling me the story, and I've got tears in my eyes, and she's got tears in her eyes, and her daughter's got tears in her eyes, and it cost her something to share that story, but she shared it so that I could share it with you guys. We'll get back to Prison Break now. That's a super long answer to your question. Sorry, Amori. Um, Tim Sawyer had something to say that he got rid of. Allie, Chicago or Dallas or LA, which is your favorite filming destination? Hands down, Chicago. Hands down, Chicago. Um, Story behind your necklace. I feel like you've had it forever. Um, my youngest was born in the year of the golden pig. And so this was a gift from my family on my first Mother's Day. It's a golden pig, and there are teeth marks in it because when Andy Lincoln's youngest sorry, my oldest was born in the year of the golden pig. I can't remember if I said oldest or youngest, 2007. When Andy Lincoln's youngest was a baby, I think it was season 2. Yeah. I was holding him. We were over at Andy's house for dinner, and I looked down and he's teething on it. And it's real gold, so it dented really easily. So I've got the teeth marks from Andy's little kid. Um, let's see. Katharina, when Michael and Sarah say goodbye in Crete, why does Sarah say, "I can't," and walks away before she returns to kiss him? What can't she do? Oh, man, I'm gonna have to rewatch that and find out because they cut a bunch of stuff. Um, but I would imagine off the top of my head, she's married, and I don't think at that point knows that her husband is a monster. I can't remember if she knows that Jacob is Poseidon or not at that point. Um, but I think it probably means I can't undo my life. Also because their son is at home and yeah, I'm gonna have to rewatch that. It's a good question, um, Katharina. Okay, Truth Chase. I would love it if that was really your name. I don't know if that's your name or if that's a handle. Sarah Tancredi's medical skills are renowned. I bet her shoe game is even more impressive. Would you be willing to sell me some feet pics as a prescription for happiness? No. Moving on, Alejandra Schofield. Have you ever watched Legends of Tomorrow or The Flash? I haven't. I'm so sorry. There's so much I haven't watched, but I did just watch Dying for Sex, and I thought it was freaking brilliant. Michelle Williams is such an amazing actor, and Jenny Slate, and phenomenal show. Summer Kaminsky, which is your favorite season? Season 1, hands down. Love season 1. Taylor Lindsay, I've seen pictures of a deleted scene, season 5 from Michael and Sarah, some with Mike at a park in the episode. What were those scenes? Well, one of the things that happened in that scene, we were sitting in the park, and it was like a nice family, like, we're all here. We're watching the kid play, we go get ice cream, and I think it ended with Michael looking over his shoulder and realizing that there were people watching us with nefarious intent. I think it might have been a, like, we're planting a seed for future seasons. Um, I think it was supposed to be the very last scene, and that one got cut. Um, Favorite music genres? I am right now, Raphael Jones, in a Hawaiian music, um, renaissance at home here. It's wonderful to cook to. I grew up in Hawaii. And I've been listening to a lot of Brothers Casimiro and Mauna Lua, because Bobby Modero is a friend of mine, and, Makaha Sons. Um, I also went through, like, a 4-day Creedence phase where I was just listening to nothing but Creedence Clearwater Revival, because it's fantastic. And then something came up, oh my god, it was so terrible. Something came up on Spotify on the, like, This Is Creedence playlist, and it was like a club remix, and it was so traumatic, I turned it off, and I haven't listened to any of it since. Any recommendations? Rachel Farrar asks, for books you feel everyone should read once. I do love Sand Talk by Tyson Yunkaporta. I think it's amazing. If you're more into fiction, um, I loved Life of Pi. I remember loving Cavalier and Clay, The Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, and City of Thieves. I just absolutely loved. All right, Helene Lafleur. "Hey, Sarah, it was amazing to meet you in Paris. Will you be at the from Atlanta to Paris next year?" I have no idea. That's too far away, and I don't think they've announced a list of people for that yet. Um, yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm scrolling down, so much going on. Have I watched any K-dramas? Camila Naranjo? Naranjo? I don't know. Camilla, if I knew where you were from, I could do this better. I have not watched any K-dramas, but I did direct a K-pop episode of The Irrational, um, and that was fun. Holy smokes, is that a remarkably, uh, specific world. I do enjoy a K-spa and went with several cast members of, The Company You Keep to a K-spa shortly before we were wrapped, and, I felt bad because one of the people that came with us did not know that K-spas, by and large, in the women's section, are just women being women with women's bodies and nothing covering them, and may have I may have traumatized the person that we brought with us, and I still feel bad about that. Um, am I fluent in other languages? I'm not fluent. I do speak some French. I speak very little Hawaiian. I spoke more when I was in high school. Um, and, like, enough Spanish to order off a menu. Um, and enough Spanish actually to sort of get by in a restaurant because when I first moved to New York City, most of our, bar back staff and kitchen staff were native Spanish speakers, and so they taught me a little bit. I can say, like, "I need ice, please," in Spanish. Um, okay, Lou wants to know, how did you explain to your kids what you do for work when they first started asking? This is actually a so, my kids like to, like all kids, they all went through a, like, um, make-believe phase, and at a certain point, I said, "Well, you know how you do make-believe? That's what mama does for a living. I do make-believe." And my kid, like, stopped and thought about it for a second and was like, "So you get paid for make-believe?" And I was like, "That's right, I do." And they stopped and looked at me and they were like, "Can I get paid when I do make-believe?" And I was like, "Oh, you budding little capitalist. No. I mean, someday, maybe, but not by me. You can be paid in room and board and, all the things that I love to do for you." But it was funny. They were, like, trying to negotiate a higher allowance, I think, based on all of that. They do think it's kind of weird. My kids have more or less not seen anything I'm in. I think they saw Colony, but they're understandably, I think they don't love that, like, when they go to a new school or something, there's a moment where all of a sudden they may feel slightly less anonymous than they have a right to because their mom does something for a living that happens to be sort of public facing. Um, Kayla wanted to know, any chance we get you to, Comic-Con in Edinburgh? Yeah, I love Scotland. I haven't been back for so long. Yeah, man, totally. Let's make it happen. Um, Jess Pitzer, I've always thought it's super interesting when you talk about the time at the National Theatre Conservatory. Oh, yeah. Favorite memory from my time there, what was the application process? The application process, was intense. So, had to go to New York. I was in university in New Hampshire, and you had to go to New York City and audition, in front of, a guy named Daniel, who was the Renner, Daniel Renner, that was his name, who was the dean of the school at the time. School was itty bitty. There were 8 kids, 8 students per class, so 24 people in the school because it was fully funded so that if you auditioned and got in, you were given, a full ride plus a stipend, which is why I went there because that was my price point for grad school. And so you auditioned with a Shakespeare monologue and a contemporary monologue. I auditioned with a, um, a monologue of Portia's from Julius Caesar and another one, I think it was a Wendy Wasserman play. Um, and so I auditioned with that. I was so nervous the night before. I practiced every single day for a month beforehand. I was so nervous the night before. It was the first night in my life I didn't sleep a wink. At like 3 in the morning, I called my mom from the couch at my friend's house where I was staying over, and I was like, I'm gonna bomb this so hard because I haven't slept at all." And my mom was like, "Just trust yourself. Trust that your rehearsing will just, like, lock in somehow." And it did, and then they called back like, a couple 100 people audition from around the country for the 8 spots, and then they do a callback weekend, actually, where they flew the 20 finalists out to Denver for a weekend, and you take classes, and you rehearse, and they put you through your paces, and you learn monologues and scene work, and at the end of it, like, a couple days later, they called the top the 8 people who got in, which was so nerve-wracking, so terrifyingly nerve-wracking, especially because it was Denver, so it's a mile up, so you can't catch your breath the whole time you're there, so you feel like you're drowning and terrified. Anyway, um, let's see, who have I not answered here? Jamie Lee Mangan. "Hey, how soon into filming season 4 did you find out Sarah's full storyline, such as the pregnancy, etcetera? Did it change the way you played her?" I think they told me before I came back to the show. I think they, because obviously they called me back, and it was literally April 1st, of 2008, because the writer's strike had just ended. They're like, "We want you back on Prison Break." And I was like, "Ha ha, April Fools." And I hung up. And they called me back the next day. They're like, "It's now April 2nd. Will you believe us when we tell you we want you to come back?" And I was like, "I have questions. I believe you killed me." So they gave me the kind of whole pitch for that kind of thing. So I had it going in. Um, but I did have to figure out where acting came from again. Partly because, and I've talked about this before, I was kind of in the middle, although I didn't know it, of a pretty gnarly postpartum depression, but also like I'd been sharing my body with another living being for the duration of a pregnancy, and nursing still felt like I was kind of sharing, you know what I mean? I was like, my body felt like it wasn't entirely my own, and so I was sort of reticent to bring too much, imagined trauma in, and there was actually a scene that we had to reshoot because I was so kind of emotionally guarded during it, that when they got into the edit, they're like, we need you to, like, drop in more and give more," and I was like, "Oh, shoot, sorry." Um, so I believe they told me a fair amount of that stuff, although I don't know if I was fully aware of the Gretchen part of it all, of who was doing the torturing and stuff. Um, that's what I remember from that. Um, Maria Clara, "The playlist you made for Sarah Tancredi years ago was so cool, full of country music somehow. Would you consider doing another one? Are there any songs that remind you of her off the top of your head?" Um, I do a playlist for almost every character I play, actually, and, it's something I learned from Andy Lincoln because he did it for the first season of Walking Dead, and then for season 2, he sent me a CD called Pump Up the Grimes, and it was he's like, "This is what I'm gonna be working with this season." And I was like, "Okay, cool, I'm gonna send you some stuff," and it just gave us a kind of, like, shared soundtrack, and I found it really helpful, and, like, I usually get to work an hour or a half an hour before I'm doing hair and makeup in the morning, and I do yoga, and to have a playlist that's just that, like, this is the way we move in to this character is really helpful. As for anything from Sarah, like, funny, the first thing that popped into my head is that, Got song, "Somebody That I Used to Know," as a sort of, like, "Leave me alone, Jacob" anthem. Um, but that's also, like, there's a jadedness to that that I don't know, that's just a song that popped into my head. Anything that really feels I don't know, I heard some Sarah McLachlan recently. There's a sort of languid intelligence to her writing that probably feels about right. Um, I also think there's a ferocity of maternal love and devotion to Lauryn Hill's Zion that probably would be really interesting when it comes to Mike, just like that whole unsure of what the balance held. I touched my belly overwhelmed. Like, I don't know what this is gonna be like, uh, but I will be your bulwark between you and life forever. Anything, like anytime you need a knight with a sword to guard the drawbridge so that you can be safe inside, I'm your huckleberry. Um, do you still do jujitsu? I do. I did it last night. It was humbling. You guys, okay. I'm really not good at it, and it's so cool to be able to do something that you can be bad at. Like, I can't be a bad actor, I can't be a bad writer, I can't be a bad director, or a bad mom, or a bad friend, or a bad wife, or a bad whatever. Like, you get to a certain part of adult life, and, like, you have to be good at what you do, in theory. I can be bad at jujitsu for my whole life. And at this point, with 3 stripes on a white belt, it feels like I will be. Do you know what I mean? Like, I still if I'm rolling with anybody who's more advanced than I am, I can't get out from under them, and it's just like, I am just like, "Frame, frame." I end up on my back getting smushed a lot, uh, but it's really extraordinary to study. I was never an athlete, and so it's really extraordinary to study something that involves using my body to get myself out of a situation where I'm being pinned. Like, I actually think it's really transformative for women because a lot of the work that you do in jujitsu is working from one of the most vulnerable positions you can be in as a woman, which is like to have someone between your legs trying to smash you and to be able to think clearly, come up with a plan, extricate yourself. Um, I think is really helpful because, like, I'm terrible at jujitsu, but I could probably get out of that situation. I couldn't win the fight, like, I couldn't tap the guy, but I could probably make myself enough of a nuisance that I could get away and get safe, and that, especially as a survivor, like that, there's a level of empowerment there that's really profound. I also had to go to my coaches in the beginning and be like, "Hey, listen, I don't know how this is gonna go. I might end up just panicking and crying, and I really don't wanna do that, but it could happen, so I'm letting you know," and they're like, "Oh, it happens. It happens to people. Like, don't worry about it. No one's gonna judge you. No one's gonna be mad." Um, so it's kind of nuts. Um, but I love it, I love it, I love it. Um, okay. Oh, Zoe can I just call you Zoe? Zoe Temiloin? Sorry. Um Also started jujitsu last year and bad, but I love it. Yeah, man, that's totally it. Brenda wants to know if I'm a good cook. My husband would tell you yes. The James Beard Awards would tell you no. I'm not fancy. Um, but I cook food that my family likes to eat. Um, although tonight we're having like tacos and my husband made pico de gallo. Like it's not super complicated. But I do currently have a recipe that I'm loving for a lemon artichoke risotto that's very like lovely, lovely, lovely. Um, oh, Ingrid wanted to know, do you have my season 5 script? And if so, are there any chance of releasing the script for the Michael Cera deleted scene for the show's 20th anniversary? That's a really interesting question. I'm pretty sure that I'm not allowed to do that because there's something on all the scripts that says you don't own this and Fox will sue you into oblivion if you publish anything. Um, But I do have my season 5 scripts. I can't find my scripts from season 2, but I did find the ones from season 5 because 'cause they're more recent. Um, Dasani Waters wants to know, "How is the kid you were pregnant with in season 2?" That kid just graduated from high school and is going to university, and I have more feelings about that than I can possibly imagine, which is funny because I posted something the other day on Instagram that was like, "Hey, congratulations to the graduates of 2025." And, like, as a side note, I was like, "Oh, if you're a parent like me and you're having big emotions, we can do this." The number of people who reached out and were like, "Be strong, Sarah, it's gonna be okay, we're with you." I was like, "Oh, no." Like, it was not about centering maternal sadness at kids moving on. It was supposed to be about, like, a congratulations. So I apologize if I, like, totally effed up the messaging there. It wasn't great on my part, I apologize. Um, okay. What's your go-to takeout meal? Ethiopian. Ethiopian every time. Miserwat, kitfo, injera, gomen. So, 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 so good. When I direct in Vancouver, there is a restaurant I go to so often that he recognizes my phone number. He'll call and he'd be like, Kitfo and Miserwat to go?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, man, thank you." It's amazing. Um, Alicia wants to know, "Why does time get faster as you get older?" I have no fricking idea, but if somebody figures this out, please let me know because I gotta slow it down. I'm sure this is something that's been studied. I do find that when I can stop and be really present, time does slow back down. I had some friends visiting a couple days ago, and we took them up to see some of the, summer salmon, and we ended up in this beautiful I'll probably post a picture of this actually now that you mention it. This beautiful, like, gully, like, valley that had been carved by this river over, hundreds of thousands of years. And there are eagles in the trees above us and just schools of salmon swimming by. It was a beautiful day. We jumped in the river, like, in a little part that wasn't full of not in a salmon part, we weren't bugging them. Um, and we just sat there for, like, 2.5 hours, just mostly being and talking a little bit, and time slowed back down to the way I remembered summers as a kid. And I was like, "Oh, is this it? Is it just about not being in a constant panic of what needs to be done next, and what am I gonna make for dinner, and how am I gonna make a career happen, and what if I do this live thing and fuck it up?" You know what I mean? Like, we can just silence those voices, maybe we can slow time down a little bit. I don't know. Um, Robin Finnerty wants to know, "How do you feel about us now being closer to the year 2050 than 2020?" Oh my god, Robin, why did you do that to me? That's terrifying. Um, whew, I don't know how I feel about that, but now I it's a question I have to ask myself and take some time with. 2050, am I gonna be alive in 2050? That's 25 years from now? Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. I will tell you this, my fruit trees that I've planted out here are going to be massive and beautiful, and I'm gonna have all of the fruit that I need to eat and that my family can consume from about June through December because the apples keep really well. So that's something to look forward to. I'm gonna have lots of cherries and plums and a fig tree. So I'm going for 2050 is the year of abundant fruit, and I'm not gonna think of it past that because if I do, I'll have a panic attack. Thank you. Alicia wants to know, would you ever do another show like Council of Dads? In a heartbeat. That show meant so much to me. I'm trying to create shows like that. Like, selling things is really hard right now, but I've got a couple of pitches out. I think we need that. I think we need stories that model to us the profound ways in which we can love each other like Olympic sports, the breathtaking capacity for human compassion, um, the ability to be messy. Actually, that's what I love about Dying for Sex, believe it or not. This sort of breathtaking ability for two people to be there for each other even when it's hard. Um, yeah, I would love to do another show like that. Um, let's see. Lou says, "I'm moving into my first apartment in 1 week. Do you have any tips?" You guys, chat, do we have any tips for Lou? Moving into your first apartment, you probably need less stuff than you think you do. Um, and anything okay, for me, anything I don't unpack in the first 2 weeks, I will never unpack. So, like, my advice would be unpack the things, get things set the way you want them, because we moved in this house maybe 4 years ago, I can't remember, about 4 years ago, 3, 4 years ago, and there are still boxes that I haven't unpacked that are just sitting there because I'm like, "Well, life has moved on and I'm not unpacking right now." Like, that's o that's over. Um, oh, Council of Dads is such a great show. We talk about it often in the Discord group. Makes me laugh and cry at the same time. It's beautiful. Yeah, Maury, I agree. Arthur Spooner wants to know, why was the TV show Colony canceled? Because life is sad and God hates us all. That's not true. That's not right. Sorry. The head of the studio and the head of the network were both replaced in between season 3 and 4. And so we all left season 3 thinking we were coming back, and the new heads of the studio and network decided that they were gonna wipe almost all existing shows, except for, I think, like, Mr. Robot, because that one had been a huge, like, Emmy success, and they were gonna start with all new shows. That one still broke my heart. I love that show so much. I find you guys I've had such an amazing opportunity to be a part of some wonderful stories, like Prison Break, obviously, Walking Dead, obviously, but I think about Colony and Council of Dads, and telling stories that meaningful is like all that little me dreamed about when I was watching the Academy Awards when I was 11 and going into the bathroom to practice my acceptance speech about, like, telling these great stories and stuff. So, little me is happy about that. Little me is very, very happy about that. Oh, have Paul and I watched the last episode of season 2 yet? Okay, so drama there. I don't know if Paul mentioned this to you guys. We did. We did the rewatch, we did the podcast, and because Paul was on location shooting in Vancouver in a hotel, his internet apparently kept going in and out, and it's not salvageable. So, we are going to drop that once we're both, like, kind of crazy busy right now, but I'm hoping that there's an opportunity for us to cross paths in the same city. So, it would be really cool. We're trying, no promises, but we're trying to do a, like, "Hey, Sarah. Hey, Paul. We're both here," finale for season 2. So, we're doing our best on that one. Um Ingrid, I love Katie Bowman, but she should have divorced Will. There, I said it. Oh my god, Ingrid, that's hilarious. Fair enough. I know, Alicia, Ben wants to do it live, but, we don't know how. We're scared. If Ben can figure it out, we may very well do it live. But also it's gonna be in some time zone that's gonna totally hose one of you, and I feel terrible. You know, when it's like, "Oh, no, these guys have to wake up at 5 in the morning or stay up until 2." So we'll see. Okay, let's keep going for a little bit. I gotta make dinner by 4, but we're still chatting. Um, oh, was it nerve-wracking returning for season 4? Was it as nerve-wracking returning for season 4 as it was starting season 1? And right below that, Jess wants to know, what was it like the first day back on set? My first day back on set, I wanna say that can't be right. I wanna say there was an aircraft carrier involved? Not aircraft carrier, a C-130, a giant plane, but that can't be right. Uh, it's funny, again, nerve-wracking going back to work, um, having had a baby, uh, I got super self-conscious about, like, what size am I? Do I look the same way I used to look? Um, there was a big thing season 1 where the costume designer and I had been like, "She doesn't feel like a jeans person." You know, she works, right? And, like, doctors don't wear jeans to work, even in a prison, or at least they didn't in our imaginations back in 2005. And so I remember being costumed in, like, trousers, slacks, etcetera. And then one day, it felt like we should make a switch back to jeans. And I know I wore jeans a bunch in season 2, but we started season 4 in, like, slacks and kind of conservative sweaters. And we made this switch, and I got back into jeans, and I was like, "Oh, there she is." Like, "Oh, okay, I found her again." Like, it's almost like we'd gone back to kinda season 1 Sarah, and we had to land back into season 2 Sarah in order to carry her forward into season 4. I don't remember what my first scene was. It wasn't the reunion scene. It wasn't that one. We started with something else, but I'd have to maybe when we rewatch, there'll be some, like, memories that shake loose. If I can find those scripts, maybe there's even a schedule in there somewhere. Maybe there's a one-liner. I'm not sure. Um, Stephanie E wants to know, did you receive or at least see any of the cranes from the Save the Good Doctor campaign in season 3? I didn't. They never made it to me. From what I remember, I was at home in, like, Babyland, and Wentworth called me, and he was like, "You have no idea what's going on right now." And I was like, "I have no idea what's going on right now." Like, I don't know what's happening down the block. Hollywood, like, I'm in Canada. I was just totally overwhelmed. And he's like, "The fans are flipping out." I was like, "Oh, that's so sweet." He's like, No, you're" he's like, "The fans are flipping out." And I don't know how he knew. Um, but I'd heard about all those cranes, and what was really kind of moving is for my wedding, we had tried to make 1,000 paper cranes because it was supposed to be, like, super good luck, and I'd read this beautiful book called Sadako and the 1,000 Paper Cranes, a kid's book when I was littler, and, we didn't make it because it's a lot, you guys. 1,000 cranes is a lot. But we got to, like, 700 some, and I remember I'd been backstage because I got married right after grad school. We'd be backstage at a play, and there'd be, like, 10 of us just folding origami and putting it in these, like, coffee cans so that they wouldn't get crushed. And that had been, like, a really big part of my pre-wedding thing. And at the wedding, we actually burned them as, like, a symbol. This is so cheesy, but, like, as a symbol that in a marriage, you put in an extraordinary amount of work, and then you have to let it go because it's not about the work, it's about the relationship and about the devotion. And so when I heard that fans were sending in these, like, dozens and hundreds of cranes from around the world, it brought me right back to that in this sort of, like, beautiful life full circle moment. Um, let's see. Um, Abby. Oh, wow, that's so sweet for your wedding. Thanks. Um, let's see. Oh, Abby just had her 1-year wedding anniversary. Happy anniversary. It gets better, and it gets harder, and then it gets better, and then it gets harder, and then it gets better. Um, oh, Aki wants to know why there are only 13 episodes in season 5. Were there 13? Were there 13? There might have been 10. Anyway, there weren't many. Someone's gonna know the answer to this. Um, Raphael Jones says 9. Don't worry, Aki, it's fine. So there were 9 because that's what we could fit into our hiatuses. If I remember right, Went and Dom were still filming Legends, or something in that world, but I think it was Legends. I was filming Colony, and it was between seasons 2 and 3 of Colony, and there was a window where all the cast was available, and that window was long enough to shoot 9 episodes. And I remember I had to call Carlton Cuse, who was the creator of, Colony, and ask him for permission because uh, they had me under contract, an exclusive contract saying you can't appear in any other television. And so I called Carlton and I was like, "Hey, there's this show that I did before I started Colony, and it means a lot to me, and I'd really like to do this." And I remember he was like, "Let me think about it." Um, and he phoned me back a couple days later, and he's like, "Tell you what, I'm not comfortable with you being in all of the season because then you're a series regular on 2 shows, and that just doesn't feel right." He's like, "But figure out how many episodes they're doing," and I was like, "They said 9." He's like, "How about 6?" And I was like, "We can totally do 6." Um, and so I reached out to the Prison Break writers, and I was like, "I can be there for 2/3 of this thing." And so I think they, like, stuck me in the back of the car for a little while, and, like, writers are really great and creative about figuring that kinda thing out. But yeah, that's kinda how all that math, shook out. Um, Season 3 is 13, Joe said, yeah, and so season 3 was 13 because of the writer's strike. So, they got half of a season written and shot, and then the writer's strike came on, and we had to put all that down. Alicia wants to know, do I have a favorite country I've ever visited, or recommendations for travels? I have not booked for Zanzibar yet, but I've got some really good friends who are in Zambia right now. And there's so much there's so much that I wanna see, over in Africa. I mean, I shot a movie in Nigeria, and that's the only place I've ever been. I heard recently that there's a train that you can take, like a sleeper train, which to me feels like the Orient Express for some reason. Like, I'm visualizing this, like, super old sleeper car. I'm sure that's not what it's like. But, and apparently you can go, like, north for 10 days and just sort of stop in place after place and get a feel for different countries because it's so vast, and obviously you could spend a lifetime exploring and not see it all. So I'm hoping that's in my future. I'm really curious, I'm a sort of vampire, right? Like, my grandfather's Transylvanian. And so I'm curious about that part of the world. I'm about to work with a director from Georgia. I'd be really interested to spend more time in Hungary, where my grandfather was from, and in the Czech Republic, where my grandmother's from. Um, and I've heard like the Moldova, that kind of area I think would be really amazing. But then I also heard about um it's called like the Ceylon Tea Trail, I think, Ceylon. Um and it's kind of like the Appalachian Trail, except I think easier, I hope, or like the Camino Real in Spain. And it's like a long, maybe a 100 kilometers or something. I'm not sure. But it's a trail through the traditional tea farms in Sri Lanka. Um, and that sounded really cool. So I was talking to a friend of mine about maybe bopping off and doing that at some point, which could be pretty rad. Um, I helped a cat give birth to 3 kittens in Tunisia in May is the coolest comment of the day. You guys have 3 minutes to top that. Jesus, Murphy, that's wild. Um, uh, Jamie Lee again. I've been teaching my year 8s about gender and the patriarchy. I used your female character test as a discussion. Ooh, the Bechdel test. Yeah. Oh, in grade 8, man. Oh, there's a lot going on gender-wise there. Go you. That's fantastic. Um, Robin's mulled over Moldova. That's gotta be like a slogan for the country. Mull over Moldova. Maybe not. They can probably do better. Also, that's not their first language. I also had to get a rabies jab. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that happens to somebody I knew too who ended up getting bitten by a rabid cat in Cambodia, of all places. And I had to administer the second dose, and, uh, he did not die of rabies. So, cheers. Here's to that. Um, Katharina, how long did Sarah have her crane tattoo in season 5? Oh, that's such a good question. I don't know, I think for a really long time, certainly longer than she's been married to Jacob or ever met him, I mean, I think that was a part of her grieving process when she believed that Michael was dead. I think it was about, I wanna have this where I can feel like he's always at my back somewhere. And it was interesting because 'cause I'd talked about that to the writers. I'd asked for that because I've got this big giant wedding ring that was a plot point that she needs to be able to give it to Michael and, have it pay for their transport, but I hated the idea of wearing another man's wedding ring, and I was like, "Well, if I have a wedding ring on, then I want something that's more substantially Michael," and so I was like, "What about a tattoo?" And the writer was like, "Yeah, totally, it's great." We talked about placement, and then we never saw it because, nothing showed my shoulder until the day we shot that scene where you do see it, where she's sitting with, Sheba? Sheba? And they're talking, and we got there, and they'd just forgotten to tell the makeup department that I was gonna need it. And so we didn't have the sort of transfer tattoos that usually we use, and so one of our makeup artists, like, free drew it, just, like, looked on her phone and just, like, hand drew it with I don't know what, and then kinda sealed it on there. But yeah, I like that one. That one meant a lot to me. Um Oh, Joe, it was perfect. Thank you. I agree. Um, okay, like one more question here. Bruna said, "You posted encounters with bears. As someone living in Washington who loves nature, I'm terrified. Are you used to it?" I didn't grow up here. Yeah, so bears okay, so if it's a black bear and it's near a salmon stream and there are salmon in it, you are not the most interesting thing. I've had encounters with black bears a couple of times. Once, I was in the Great Bear Rainforest, and it was the end of salmon season, and this bear came around a corner, and it was not 20 feet from me, and I looked at it, and it looked at me, and my husband was like, "Don't look it in the eye," and I looked down, I realized I was on a trail, and I was like, "Oh, I'm in its way," and I moved over, and it just like, doom, doom, just like pushed past me to get to the salmon stream. I would not wanna run into a bear, like, right after they came out of hibernation because they're probably less picky about what protein source they're encountering. Um, but yeah, I mean, if it comes to, like, bear and salmon, they're just totally disinterested uh, in anything that I have to, I mean, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna, like, swat the fish out of their hand, I'm not gonna get in their way, but they seem very content to be left alone, um, to eat their fish, and they're amazing to see. There's a for a creature of that size and that power, they're very, like at least the ones I've seen, have been very, like, methodical and calm and quiet, and it's really kinda moving. I imagine it's a tiny corner of what it might feel like to see an elephant, which feels like something that I would like to do before I die. Um, okay, guys, I have to go make dinner. Um, this has been really great. You guys are wonderful. Thank you for being in community with each other. Thank you for taking such good care of each other. Thank you for choosing community at a time when it seems very, very easy to choose, um, what's the opposite of community? Not just solitude, but, like, anger and judgment and derision at others. So, huge, huge, huge love to you guys, and we'll just figure out the rest of what happens now with fan fiction and interviews and the finale of season 2. We'll figure it out. We're gonna hang in there together. Um, yeah, love you guys. Thanks for being here. Talk to you later. Ciao. End. Nope, not yet.